The county sheriff's department building looked smaller than Heather remembered from her brief visits during the academy. A squat, brick structure just outside the Riverview town limits, it served as the law enforcement headquarters for the surrounding rural communities too small to maintain their own police forces. Heather parked in the spot designated for deputies, noting with a small thrill that her name had already been stenciled onto the curb. Deputy H. King. She sat for a moment, gathering herself, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror. Uniform crisp, hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, expression composed. The department doors opened with a hydraulic hiss. Inside, the bullpen was alive with the controlled chaos of shift change deputies finishing paperwork from night patrol, day shift officers collecting their assignments, the constant background noise of phones ringing and radios crackling. "Well, look what the academy spit out," a voice called from the coffee station. Deputy Jenkins, a 30-year veteran with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, raised his styrofoam cup in mock salute. "King's kid. Didn't think you'd actually go through with it." Heather kept her expression neutral as she walked past him. "Morning, Jenkins. You know where the coffee supplies are, right? Been a while since we had a girl around to keep the pot fresh." Several nearby officers chuckled. Heather didn't break stride, didn't let her face show anything but calm professionalism as she headed toward the locker area. "Hey, King." She turned to find Officer Craig Reynolds approaching, a clipboard in hand. He'd been 2 years ahead of her in high school, the type of guy who'd made sure everyone knew his father was on the city council. "Sign-in sheet," he said, thrusting the clipboard at her. "And Sheriff wants all rookies to check in with dispatch before roll call, thanks." She took the clipboard, signing her name with a steady hand. Reynolds lingered. "So, Daddy's connections get you this gig, or was it pity points for the sister?" The pen jerked in her hand, leaving a small blot next to her signature. Heather looked up slowly, meeting Reynolds' gaze with a stare that had silenced loudmouths at the academy. My dad is not in law enforcement. "For the record, I graduated top of my class at Springfield," she said evenly. "My application and qualifications are in my personnel file if you're interested in the facts." She handed back the clipboard and walked away before he could respond, her heart hammering against her ribs even as her exterior remained composed. This wasn't unexpected. She'd prepared for this, the small-town politics, the casual sexism. Still, hearing Kaylie referenced so callously stung in a way she hadn't anticipated. The dispatch area was quieter, the soft murmur of operators directing the morning patrols creating a bubble of focused activity. Heather introduced herself to the chief dispatcher, a gray-haired woman who barely looked up from her console as she nodded acknowledgement. By the time Heather made it to roll call, most of the chairs were filled. She took a seat near the back, aware of the sidelong glances from her new colleagues. Sergeant Thompson, a barrel-chested man with 30 years on the force, ran through the morning briefing with mechanical efficiency, overnight incident reports, notable arrests, areas needing increased patrol. Heather took notes, committing names and locations to memory. When Thompson assigned her to desk duty for her first shift, she accepted without complaint, though the disappointment was bitter on her tongue. "Rookie paperwork rotation," he explained with a dismissive wave. "Department protocol." As the room emptied, Heather gathered her notebook and stood to leave. "Deputy King," the voice came from the doorway. Sergeant Diana Walsh stood with arms folded, her hazel eyes taking in Heather's appearance with a critical gaze. At 54, Walsh was a department legend, one of the first female officers in the county, renowned for her perfect recall, off-case details, and no-nonsense approach. "Yes, Sergeant?" Heather straightened unconsciously. "My office." 5 minutes. Heather's stomach tightened as Walsh walked away. Had she already made some misstep? Or was this about Kelly's case? Walsh had been one of the lead investigators when Kaylie disappeared. She made her way to Walsh's office, a small room at the end of the administrative hallway. The door was ajar, but Heather knocked anyway, her knuckles rapping sharply against the wood. "Come in," Walsh called. Heather entered to find Walsh wasn't alone. A man in plain clothes leaned against the filing cabinet, his posture relaxed but watchful. In his early 30s, with close-cropped dark hair and observant brown eyes, he had the compact build of someone who kept himself in excellent shape without making a show of it.
Deputy King, this is Detective Matthew Lee, Walsh said, nodding toward the man. Detective, meet our newest deputy. Lee inclined his head slightly, his expression giving away nothing as he assessed her. Have a seat. Walsh gestured to the chair across from her desk. Heather sat, back straight, hands folded in her lap. Is there a problem, Sergeant? Walsh's mouth quirked into something that might have been a smile. Problem? No. But I did just override Thompson's assignment. You won't be doing desk duty today. Heather blinked, surprised. Ma'am, I've been tracking your progress since you entered the academy. Walsh said, leaning back in her chair. Top marks in investigative procedures, excellent situational awareness scores, highest written exam results in your class. She tapped a folder on her desk. Heather's personnel file. Seems a waste to have you filing incident reports. Heather remained silent, unsure where this was heading. Detective Lee here could use a partner for today's patrol, Walsh continued. His usual partner is on vacation, and I think you might learn more writing with a detective than you would behind a desk. Lee shifted slightly, his first real movement since Heather had entered. With respect, Sergeant, I don't babysit rookies. Good thing I'm not asking you to babysit, then, Walsh replied smoothly. I'm asking you to work with Deputy King. There's a difference. An awkward silence stretched between them. Heather remained still, unwilling to appear eager or offended. Your sister's case, Walsh said abruptly, turning her attention back to Heather. You joined because of her, didn't you? The question caught Heather off guard. I joined because I believe in the work, she answered carefully. But Kelly's case was the catalyst. It wasn't a question this time. Heather met Walsh's gaze. Yes. Walsh nodded, as if confirming something to herself. I thought so. Her expression softened fractionally. It's been 4 years since Kelly King went missing. We should have found her by now. Yes, Heather agreed, her voice steady. You should have. From the corner of her eye, she saw Lee's attention sharpen at her response. But the case has been as cold as ice, you understand that, Walsh said. We won't be putting you on duty for it any time soon. I know that, Heather said, because she did know that. I know you exhausted every angle. We did. Walsh studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Detective Lee will show you the investigative ropes today. Maybe give you some insight into how those cases work, the ones that keep us up at night. She looked at Lee, cars ready whenever you are. Straightened, apparently recognizing the dismissal. We'll head out now. Heather rose, still processing the unexpected assignment. Thank you, Sergeant. As they left the office, she felt Walsh's eyes on her back, measuring, assessing. Whatever test this was, Heather intended to pass it.